My name is Stephen and this is my channel, Heart's Delight Exports. So, a couple of little points to make. If you're dragging your plaster knife down the wall and you're hitting here and you're hitting over here, but you're not hitting here, then you got an uneven surface. As you can see, I do, because I didn't wipe away any of those marks at all. So what I want to do is put plaster right where I'm going to need it. And I pull down the wall. So I keep the blade very flat against the wall, but as I pull down, I do release some of the pressure and pull the knife away from the wall a bit. You can see I got a very rough looking surface here now. Now, sometimes you can correct that, just put more on there. Sometimes bringing it sideways will do, and you'll get plaster where you need it. Sometimes you get what I got going on right here. Probably can't see it well enough, but there's a divot in the wall here where the new plaster is not taking. Now I just smooth that bit into it so it works out okay, but sometimes what you need to do is actually leave that problem there for the next time. Sometimes you can take your little knife and smooth out what you need. What should happen is that by the time I'm done and I have a third coat down here, that it should be flat right across. There shouldn't be any huge perceptible difference, particularly in look. Now down here where I've been working in this corner, I filled in this part fairly thickly. Now that doesn't mean a hell of a lot, because in this case thickly means maybe a 1/16 of an inch. It's not that much. But again, if I drag my knife down across it, keeping it on two known high points, I can see right along most of the blade to there. From about here to here, the blade's not touching plaster, which means I don't yet have it built up enough, which means I'm not going to get it built up enough in this pass. This is one of the areas where, being an expert plasterer, you probably know tricks of the trade better than I do to be able to avoid this kind of trouble. Now another thing I had to do was put a new line right along here. That piece of plaster tape that I had left over. Make sure that you don't throw those things out until you're sure you're done with them, because the plaster had split here. The original job I did on the room here with the plastering, I didn't do enough, and the mesh tape that I had here had actually allowed the plaster to crack all the way down. So I need the new piece of plaster tape. So I keep trying to cover that over, make sure it's got a decent amount of plaster onto it. I don't want to waste all of that plaster. And you can see, I hope right about here there's another divot where the plaster line's not meeting up. So I just scrape it back and forth until things get covered over and start looking better. There's something you want to avoid. I pulled down on that one, on that line then, and I accidentally pulled it out of place. That could be a really annoying thing at times, especially if you just got your line of plaster to look just the way you wanted it to. It's finally neat and tidy and no bubbles. Now when we get to this point and you're putting on a second coat, you're still not needing to be too careful. The goal is still get plaster on the wall. And to make it as neat as you can. Sounds contradictory, huh? Well, truth is, you can slather it on the wall fairly thick. And then just take a second and use a bigger trowel to smooth over what you just put on. Make all those bubbles go away. Now I have an unevenness in the wall here, so I need to make some of this actually stand out more than what it actually needs to. It's also a butt joint where two pieces of cut drywall meet, which means that it's a bit harder to make it look nice. But the goal is still the same. You get plaster on the wall and you smooth it over until it looks pretty good. You can always do a third coat, which is actually needed, or a fourth coat, which can just help hide your mistakes. Like maybe you could see this one here. You can see I've got a bit of a wrinkle here, right? This is not necessarily a major problem. I take a little bit of mud, it doesn't need to be much, and I start smearing it over. The reason that this joint has so much room indented on either side of the drywall is to help make these joints look better, make them look neater, make it look like amateurs like me actually know what they're doing. But as you're going, you see I just made that wrinkle stand out again. I had it all nice and covered, and then I made it stand out again. Vary the pressure on your knife and drag it down. Sometimes it helps to have a smaller knife just to be able to clean the bigger one. As you get closer to what you want, I almost got that where I want it. You notice I still got some bubbles along here. If I leave them alone, they'll dry, and the next coat will fill them in just right. Now I've smoothed that out about as good as I'm going to get it for this coat. Now the next thing I need to do is leave this for a day, a few hours at least, let it dry. It'll all turn nice and white and hard, and I can see where the bubbles and imperfections and wrinkles and stuff is, and I can work from there. When you're working with plaster, there's a lot of little things that you can do with the plaster that can be sanded back or fixed later. The biggest thing is to try to keep the amount of plaster you're putting on the wall at any one time fairly low. You don't want to put on buckets of it. It's going to do you no good at all. It's much better to do 2, 3, 5 coats, whatever it takes, in order to get your plaster to look even at the end of it, than try to cram it all in there in one shot. So my job is clear for the next part here. I need to work on my plaster. I need to work on the transitions where the tape is. Some of this tape is actually not bonded to the wall properly. You hear how that sounds hollow? It should sound like this. When I tap on the wall, it should sound the same here or here. But this part, you can tell that there's a little bubble in behind the paper. So this is about the bottom edge by the looks of the way the crack runs along here. So I'll get my putty knife in under it and I'll push some more plaster in there, and I'll hopefully force it to bond to the wall. And of course I'll put more plaster across here in order to get more of this covered over. And in a future video, hopefully fairly soon, I'll be showing you how I trimmed out around the edges of the window here with wood, so that I can finally say that I have this project finished. So this is another video for Herculite Exports. I hope you enjoyed it. You know where to comment, and the subscription button, the bell notification, all that stuff is too. If you feel like it, great. If you don't, well, maybe you'll wander back in next time. Have a great day.